on, paint on, paint on, paint on. Get your paint on. Wow, 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 paint on. Whoa, what's going on? Are we there? Yep. Hello. Is the signal going out? Can you hear me? Hello, everybody. This is Get Your Paint On, your Thursday morning chit-chat talk show about painting miniatures in an ambient lighting with progressive colors. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. Hello, I'm your host, Dallas, and with me today is Doug Seacat.
Hello.
The master of lore.
I am here.
The lore master. And running the Mixboard 5000 is Mr. John Swinkles.
I want a Mixboard 5000. Where do you get a Mixboard 5000?
I just put a sticker on it. It's on the front.
The number on this one is 802.
Oh man, it's so
So
much better
5000
than
must be like
Yeah.
way better.
It's 4,000
Well, I just
better.
put some packing tape on the side and just wrote 5000. That's how it works. So we
5,000
got
now.
Sorscha 3, and she's really cool. So we can paint her. Is that what people want? Is that what people want?
Sorscha?
Is that?
That's what I want.
That's what we all want.
It looks like she needs some paint.
She definitely needs some paint. I am slacking. You know what? I'm just gonna start painting and see what happens.
Sure.
Where's my grabby brush? Grabby brush. So, like, have we talked about her, Doug? Like,
In general?
you had a discussion?
No, you and I have not talked about her much. I feel like I have talked about her before, but not with you.
So, like, when I saw this concept, I about wet myself. I was so excited. And then I saw that there's some information about her in the newest No Quarter. Mm-hmm. No Quarter number 5, right?
Well, and I have to admit, I was skeptical of this one, like just conceptually when it first came up,
Right.
Just because it felt very strange to me, and I know some other people feel the same way of like Sorscha, who's so fast, and nimble, being weighted down with this kind of heavy armor. But I have to agree, once I saw the concept and especially seeing the sculpt, it's really grown on me a lot.
Yeah, I know people talk about, like, why is the fastest person put in heavy armor? It's just like, for me, it's like, okay, well, if you're super fast and you're basically the fastest person.
Might as well
ever,
put some more armor on.
right? You're really, really fast and you got really crappy armor.
Sure.
Like, now you can still be the fastest and have more armor.
I guess.
Like, if you're speed 80 and everybody else is speed 20,
Well-
and now you're speed 60, you're still faster than 20.
I guess you're right. Plus, maybe it gets tiring, like running around in circles all the time. Maybe you just kind of want to take it easy occasionally with your giant hammer and cannon.
Yeah. Maybe
Mosey
she's
to the left, mosey to the right.
She's got she still has wind rush.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
she's still pretty fast.
She's nimble. It doesn't matter if she's wearing armor. It's like she's still super mobile.
But one of the things I liked about it, just conceptually, as we were kind of working on her and the character solo whose name is now escaping me.
No, not Thomas.
Arkanovich? Something like
Oh,
that?
Dragogovich.
No, the other one.
Atanis.
The guy with the cool hat.
Blah, blah, blah.
I'm just
Atanis.
I'm blanking on his name right now, but yeah, you're probably right. Anyway, the notion of kind of them taking over the Man of War core and kind of turning it into its own dedicated, self-sufficient division, I thought was pretty fun. And
Right.
the notion of Sorscha being, assigned to that role as the warcaster together with this, badass
Commandant Atanis Arkanovich.
That's him, and he does have, in my opinion, so far the coolest Kadoran hat yet. I mean, it's a tough contest with some of the other.
Dude has an
characters.
awesome hat.
He does.
In the miniature, he's got his little standard bearer guy.
Yeah.
And that standard bearer guy looks like just the most badass dude. He's actually taller than Atanis. And he's standing there like, I'm holding this giant flag to make it fair.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and you have to imagine like a position like that has to be really prestigious. Like you're being chosen to be the standard bearer,
And that standard is dope.
for the guy who's running like the entire division. I imagine that they picked the best.
Yeah, that, and like I said, the model, it comes out like that guy just looks like he is a boss. Like seriously, he's holding that flag to make it a fair fight against anybody else
Yeah.
because he is so hard.
So, Striker 911 asks, so is the heavy armor a form of bottling her emotions? And, that was a little joke that went around a little bit. She has been hurt, certainly. She's dealt with Vlad getting engaged to the Empress. So, there could be a little of that, little extra protection, both for the body and the mind.
She's like, I'm going to encase my heart not only in ice, but in steel.
But yeah, I do think she turned out really cool, and I know they also expanded. Like, I think her weapon is similar looking but a little bigger than before. They kind of supersized it.
Bigger.
In Kador, we don't show emotions. We bottle in ice, armor, and grab hammer.
Yes.
Do you remember we actually had to have that conversation?
Yeah, we
like,
did.
This has to be bigger, gentlemen.
And I was like, I understand. That was actually kind of a funny conversation because you went into it expecting that I would just be like, no.
Yeah, well,
And I was if it looks dumb, you have to make it look cool.
I think that was the first time I ever had to come up and be like,
Yeah.
guys, the model and the story, we need to come to an agreement.
It's like, Grey Lords do a little work, add some metal on there, crank up the size.
And then we kind of carried that through, like Sorscha Zero. It's definitely not Frostfang, but she has a Frostfang-esque.
Yeah, that was kind of an interesting compromise because we were sort of pushing. There's always a little bit of a challenge with characters like that because, like, I like the notion of getting to see her looking more like a Winter Guard, and having that nod toward that side of things. But you don't want her to look exactly like a Winter Guard, or she's just going to sort of disappear on the tabletop. So I know that's often kind of a challenge when they're designing characters like that.
Yeah, that's definitely a lot of conversation. Like downstairs, Mike and Nate are constantly thinking about, and Matt, how, that works, right? That kind of, how do you nod to something and maintain character and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, because we have a few characters that are really strongly, connected to an existing unit, and you definitely want to see that, and you want to be able to like convey that on the tabletop. But they still do need to stand out.
Yep, it's a interesting process.
Yeah.
To say the least about that process, because I can't talk about it. They'll come and get me.
So, are you going to be doing anything unusual with your painting here?
Honestly, this is a real simple paint job. This is for just my army. My army's very tabletop. If you've ever played against me at Lock and Load, it's just a tabletop army. It's just, here we go. I painted it. Yay for me. So it is a very simple. I primed her, and then I did a sort of the hairspray technique to weather it all up. Now I'll highlight it, and then I'll just do the metals and the other colors around it, and then I'm done. Like, easy peasy. Like, all I gotta do is put a little white highlight on this color that I already have existing, and I'll be happy as pie with her. There was another question about Sorscha I was just thinking about, and I kind of lost it. I hate when that happens.
One that you've been wondering about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, of course, Kador was always my primary faction, like ever since Mark 1.
Yeah.
I picked up when I saw that Kador battle box, Sorscha Juggernaut Destroyer,
Right.
and I'm just like, big red robots. Oh! I was sold then.
Yeah.
So you guys hooked me early, and on Kador, and so although Zerkova is always going to be my favorite warcaster, special place in my heart for Sorscha, right?
Yeah, I think she's great. She's one of my favorites of the classic original characters as well. And I think she's gone through some interesting evolutions. She's been fun to write about as well. I wish we had a chance to kind of get into the current drama a little bit more in fiction. It's something I've kind of had on the back burner. I'd really like to see some of those scenes go down.
Like, are you talking like Vlad, the Empress, and Sorscha stuff?
Yeah, well, in particular, like, it hasn't quite gelled as what the complete story would be, but I have this image in my mind of that, of some kind of either it's the wedding itself or some kind of an announcement ceremony, where you have everybody gathered, and it'd be an occasion where, there'd be no voiding having a hero warcaster like Sorscha present, and just kind of, seeing some of the drama play out between the various characters.
Yeah, at what
definitely
point-
not an action piece, but I think it could be really cool with the sort of interpersonal.
The drama.
Yeah, the drama.
I was gonna say, like, at what point does Sorscha wind rush the throne room?
I don't think no, and that's the thing. Like, she's such a patriot. Like, I think she understands intellectually, but there's this whole other thing going on emotionally.
The brain and the heart is in constant battle.
Yeah. And I think it's got to be real hard for Vlad too. It's just their story is one that, like, I wish we, since it's a war game, we haven't had a chance to kind of put the spotlight on those two characters in a way that I think I would like to see. Like,
Right.
you could have a total epic trilogy, centered on Vlad, that would be super cool. Just kind of and where
See,
Sorscha
Doug,
was
you
a major
can't say
player.
things like that because then people want it.
They want it. I want it. But it's the kind of thing where, like, I think there's just so much going on with a lot of these characters. Yeah, sure. I see. We've got a suggestion from Gearbox Grinds of Crix invading the ceremony, instant action. Yeah, we've kind of pulled that before. Crix pulling surprises on royal conversations. We had that encounter with Leto and the Empress where Crix crashed the party. Could be Convergence, could be Circle or Boros. You never know.
That's a new unit we should write. The Crixian Party Crashers.
Yeah, Crixian Party Crashers.
We have those. They're called Shard Pirates.
Yeah, you never know where those pirates are going to show up.
Ha
I mean, there are lakes right around the Khador capital.
That's true.
We got 3 lakes. Get some pirates coming in.
Boop 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 boop. See, I'm just highlighting this. This is basically a base coat. I'm just highlighting, and I'm gonna be done with the white. What? Oh, that's blown out. That's hard to see on my monitor. I don't know what it looks like on your monitors.
What color are you using to highlight?
Morrow white with a ton of mixing medium, because that makes it super translucent and lets me stretch it really, really, really thinly over top of this airbrushed base coat and get that white soft effect that I'm going for here.
So you're kind of riffing on the first Border Legion white.
Yeah, I love the white Khador.
Yeah, me too. That's one of my favorite kind of our classic schemes.
And it looks so good. That art piece. There's an art piece it's like white and gray.
Right.
A Sorscha and a Juggernaut.
Yeah, I think that was, if memory serves, that might have been the first Gavin Kyle file.
Ooh.
Well, and then she's in the white armor on the cover of No Quarter 5 as well.
Yes. Yeah, but
Yes, we got her in the white armor for the studio version.
But I sort of forgot about that, and I think my memory's right, or it's at least close. But, like, I think when we were first coming up with the idea for Gavin Kyle files as a article type, some of that came out of this desire from Matt Wilson personally, where he just wanted to draw. He wanted an excuse to do a couple paintings of our Warcasters again, and we're like, yeah, okay, yeah, you want to paint up Sorscha, and then
I'm gonna try something real quick. This may backfire. We'll see.
Yeah, so my whole Khador forces has gone through many iterations. The first time I painted them, they were red. I just went with the classic.
Oh,
Yeah, that's way better.
yeah,
I went with the classic red studio scheme.
mm-hmm.
And then I turned it to the white. And then I went back to red, and now I'm back to white.
That's cool.
So I have a friend back home that has my original red Khador force. So 'cause I was
Boom!
just like,
Instant
"Here you
contrast.
go."
That's definitely better. That was some magic you pulled.
It's movie magic.
So, now the question is, how much white do I leave on it, and how much trim do how much do I change to a color trim? Now I do have a red shoulder pad in my scheme.
Okay.
So there's a spot of red to accentuate.
Yeah, I like that, like seeing some of the sort of classic colors even on an alternate scheme.
Yeah, it's always a good play. You know, when we do like the alternate schemes in the studio that are more the what's the word I want? Canonical.
Right.
Like
they exist in the setting versus one that you're just having fun with.
yeah,
the
we kind of
idea.
remove that base color from
Sure.
the canonical ones to really separate. But like when I'm painting something at home, I try not to paint the studio scheme, but I try to bring in at least something from the canonical scheme into it to tie it together.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think it makes it strong and it makes it more recognizable. It gives that, it really ties it to the world. So when you walk up to somebody's table and you're like, oh, your Kador is purple, but there's still like that, the blacks and the golds that are
Right.
like, it ties it up and makes it more really Kador. Let's put some little tiny. So like this part, like I blended those out. So, but then down here, there's a bunch of battle damage. And I'm just going to pick out some little tight lines of like some little pop pinch highlights. And I might do something like a little blending, but then that's kind of it. I don't do a lot of blending on this lower part here. It's kind of a trick, right? It's like tricking the eye.
To focus where you want it to.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting.
Oh, Mr. Getz is in the chat as well. He says, "What's up, boys?"
Hello, Getz.
Mr. Getz.
Striker says, "Can Drago be the ring bearer for the wedding?"
I don't think that's a good idea.
That's probably bad.
He would have to
He'd have
dual
to
wield them.
well, and the thing is, his armor's a mess.
Yeah.
He's not ready for a
So
wedding.
like that was one of my favorite things that was in this issue of No Quarter was all the parts that weren't
non-regulation.
Yeah.
I just imagine there being like you can just imagine the military inspection line for Man of War.
Well, he's
where
got
you've
the giant wolf belt on.
But I'm just but what I imagine is like panning across this line of like perfectly pristine Man of War who have all taken care of their armor
And then he's got
filed
like
off
bare
every edge.
teeth.
And then
pelt.
he's there. He's like still spattered in blood. He's got his wolf pelt, and they just kind of walk past him. They're like, okay, it's Dragos. What are you gonna do?
He's just smiling and picking his teeth.
Yeah, exactly.
What are you gonna do?
Meanwhile, getting in the face of the the guy right to the right of him who's got like a smudge on his boot.
Sergey, what is this on your armor? But do not be like Drago.
Yeah, exactly.
Be very much like Dragos.
Dragos kill more men than you know.
Yeah.
I think that can be white. I'm just making decisions here.
Sure.
Like it's just like, can that be white? Sure. Whatever. My army, my way.
Is this the same basing scheme you have on your army?
Yeah, I do. Like,
like
that's
it.
the other thing is I like having cohesive story, narrative-driven basing.
Mm-hmm.
So all mine is done with the same materials. Some of the older stuff, it's adapted a little bit, but still pretty much matches. But I always sculpt some little sandbags and add some little barbed wire.
Barbed wire. I like the barbed wire on there.
A lot of grime and rust and crust and, Kador's in the battlefield, man.
Yeah.
Like, I'm all about that battlefield look for my Kador. I'm not going to do factory bases, right? I'll leave that for my Crucible Guard. My boys are here to tussle. So see, I blended that, and now I'm just kind of like, just a little highlights here and there, just to pick those out, just to indicate. I got hair on the end of my brush. Just to indicate some light reflecting down there, picking it out. Not get too carried away.
Ray Tyler says, Dallas, can you talk about your basing choices and how you make them?
It's all based off story. So any long-term watchers, listeners know that I I pretty much write story. I wouldn't say write. Like, I'm not gonna say
You
write.
create a headcanon.
Yeah,
You write it in your head. That's writing.
Yeah.
I consider that writing.
I give like a little narrative to like my army as I work on it, and it kind of infers what it means for that army. So like, the Filthy Five is all about some dudes going out, or ladies, whatever. I don't discriminate. Going out and doing missions that would be considered risky or suicidal. So I gave them a battlefield-esque sort of scheme as well. My Kador gets the same thing. But then you got something like my Steel Creel, and I'm like, well, these guys are like scavengers. So, and in my story, it's a bunch of trolls who are worshiping a broke-down ancient colossal. Like, not the kind of colossals you see now on the battlefield, but the real ancient ones.
Sure.
And so they're out in the desert. So I did desert theme for that. So it's all based off story and narrative for me.
And no striker, Dallas is not busy eating a camera today. It's actually out of his face for the most part.
Yeah, it's not in my face.
We got a new arm, so mo better.
This arm is like the greatest thing I've ever discovered. It has changed my life for the better. It makes me a happy painter.
And then Legionnaire says, surprised you didn't bring the new Eilish in today. He loved that color scheme.
Oh, did you? Huh? Interesting. Interesting. That's nice. I mean,
And then Nathan Howard says, Dallas, how do you transport a model for a painting competition? Do you do anything more than foam?
man, I just stick them in my battle foam. Like, I've always just stuck them in battle foam and put them on the plane with me. I always put it as my carry-on.
Yeah, and any of the bags you see us toting around to conventions work pretty well. I think I've ever had to, once I got to a convention, repair like 2 models. And it was literally just putting them back on bases.
Yeah, it's the battle foam ones work really good. And they work as carry-ons. They count as carry-ons, so
Yup.
I just carry them on. Bring them with me. Especially that new backpack.
Oh, I love my backpack. If I'm not mistaken, JR's got an extra one of those that people might have a chance to win at Lock and Load.
Ooh.
Nice.
Spoiler.
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 I do what I want.
Spoiler.
Well, see, now, normally JR is entirely in charge of, like, any convention and stuff, but usually I'm the one that gets some of the fantastic prizes, and I know I set one aside for Lock and Load, so I know he has one. How he's going to determine who gets it
Right.
is up to him. But there is one available at Lock and Load to win.
That thing is fantastic.
Oh, it's so good. So I have that one, and then I have like one of the smaller convention bags.
Right.
They're perfect. Like if I'm just taking like an army and like my tokens and stuff, then the convention bag. But if I'm taking multiple sets of things and want to put my paints in there and all that other kind of stuff, that backpack is perfect.
Yeah, I need to get a smaller, easy for taking like 35-point army.
The
bag.
convention bag is where it's at.
I've got one that's a little unwieldy to take for small things.
And yeah, that's right, Dallas. As Striker just pointed out, we did mention the bag being available to win at Lock and Load on Primecast. Try watching our shows, dog.
It's hard to keep up. So much content.
Well, especially as we go into Lock and Load, which is next week, by the way, June 22nd through the 24th, pblockandload.com. Go
Just
get your
because
tickets.
I say spoiler doesn't mean it is spoiler.
True.
Spoiler for some people, I'm sure.
But yeah, so Lock and Load is next week, and generally leading up to Lock and Load, there's always stuff to talk about, like what people can expect, what we're going to have there, and we can't help but, as staff, get like super excited, and so sometimes we spoil things.
Much to the chagrin of Schick.
Yeah, but
He spoils things all the time.
yeah, he has no leg to stand on there.
Yeah, I think Matt Wilson's the worst. You know, he's the most often one. Who'd be
Well, that's why
we're
we
like, "Wait,
generally
what?"
don't. That's why we generally don't let him talk.
Yes.
Don't give him a microphone. He'll tell everybody everything. It's because he's excited.
Very much.
Well, and that's the same reason that
Oh, yeah.
like all that news comes out prior to lock and load is because we lose our freaking minds, and I think a bunch of us get almost, if not as excited as the community as far as stuff that's coming out and stuff that we're
Oh,
into.
absolutely. Yeah.
Man, my excitement for certain things is off the rails right now. So
Well, and the one that I know I can talk about, right? Because we've been talking about it a lot lately, and we'll be talking about it even more, is Monster Apocalypse. Like, I want all of it. Like, so between like the stuff that's coming in the initial starters to some of the stuff I've seen that's coming down the pipe, I want all of it.
I need to show my finished Defender X.
You do.
Speaking of finished Defender X's,
Mhm.
segue.
Sir.
Hang on, I'm gonna put one more blend on this. Another thing we'll call the white done. Is somebody running a Roomba out there? What the hell?
I think folks are.
We're filming in here.
I think someone's out there vacuuming. Luckily, I don't think it's coming through too much. Chat will let us know. They'll be like, "What the hell?"
All right, I think my white is done. So that is seriously
Shazam!
2 airbrushes, hairspray technique, and a highlight. In how long?
Give her a nice little rotation there so everyone can.
20-minute highlight session.
So I think the distressing is particularly noticeable on the back of her pauldron there.
Yeah.
And then like on her right thigh, the forward one has a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, I like that.
A little bing, bing, bing.
Mhm.
Little chips. Yeah, it's all about accentuating those little chips. So speaking of Defender X's, Schick brought in his finished Defender.
Oh, cool.
Whoa.
He's so tall.
So big.
So
That's-
in case you were wondering about scale and size,
Yeah.
there he was next to Sorscha. And Sorscha's not tiny.
Nope. Just up to the waist.
So
Bye, Cracky.
sweet bud Jeebus.
So
So here,
that's,
go ahead
uh,
and stick him on the base there.
Oh, won't.
And I will
You're gonna zoom out.
I'm gonna do a thing.
He's
Oh.
gonna try to zoom out here.
I'm gonna do a thing.
You always lose it. Right? That's the thing that drives me nuts about that. That's the. Oh, there you go.
Dun, 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 dun.
Defender Rex
Dun, dun, dun,
coming
dun.
to save the day.
That's as far out as that camera goes.
Won't even fit in the camera. So this is Schick's Defender X. I think it looks really freaking rad.
That's
I like
cool.
this.
He's so metallic-y.
Glossy red metallic and blue metallic, silver metallic look. It's gonna look great as when we go up against each other and battle
Keep it
out.
there for a second. And nope. Yep, right there. I'm gonna just tighten the focus.
Tighten it
There
up.
we go.
It'll look great. His super bright colored metallic going up against my more neutral white.
Mm-hmm.
They'll look great on the battlefield, duking it out.
Yeah.
But who is the evil?
Schick's probably.
Schick is. That's absolutely
Chick's always the evil one.
All right, back to the action.
Wait a minute.
Ooh.
What? That is not what you were painting, dog.
Look at that.
Who that is?
I don't know. I just found it in the studio.
You're a freaking liar.
I found it in the studio and decided to paint it.
Random Tharn lying around.
I was like, I don't know what this is. I should pick it up and paint it. Yeah, you need to
Pretty
put that in
sure-
chat because I want to read chat.
Yeah, people are about to lose their freaking minds. So Doug spoiled this back at the Greek Masters. He spoiled the renders for Iona,
Yeah.
and so
Iona
Dallas
the
got his
Unseen,
hands on
I
one,
believe.
and there she is. And she's super dope.
Yep, Iona.
You need to
Iona.
paint her invisible, though.
She is the unseeable.
Yes.
The unseen.
You just have a base.
Yeah, this model is super cool, and I wanted to show it off and maybe get like a little base coat going on here, and we can chat about her a little bit.
What are we base coating her with?
A random mix of flesh tones? Question mark.
Random mix. Okay. I don't have a question mark.
Random
swatch.
You don't have the question mark?
I need a question mark swatch.
The question mark swatch. So let's call it Midland Flesh, Kador. I'm sorry,
Tharn flesh?
Cardic Flesh,
Cardic.
and a drop of Rucksack Tan.
But what about Farn Flesh, man?
What about it?
So Cardic flesh. Cardic flesh, what else?
Cardic Flesh, Midland Flesh, and Rucksack Tan. Yep. That rucksack adds that little bit of yellow and kind of desaturates it a little bit. Takes it out of that super red tone. That the Cardic brings. Man, this girl got abs.
Oh, dude, she has got her swole on. She works out.
Yeah, she.
I find myself using Cardic Flesh quite a bit to start.
It's a real good base. For things like Tharn, I like adding that little bit of rucksack because it yellows it out, tones out that red, and then I use the Midland as like a lightener. Kind of lightens it all up a little bit. I know it's a bunch of mixing. Oh, Dallas, you mix all the time. Sorry.
So one of our other sculptors, Nate Brooks, is in chat as he often is. Hello, Nate. He says, "Why isn't it next week yet? I can't wait for Lock and Load, dude. Slow down.
Oh, you're all,
It's
man.
coming up too fast for me.
We got stuff to do, my man."
I was busy.
You want to pop Sorscha up next to her real quick so people can get an idea of her size as
They
well.
want a size. They want a scale.
Just a little scale. We just need to keep a banana in the studio because that's the internet's method of determining scale.
The useless scale comparison.
There's one thing I will never follow is the internet trend of anything, ever.
Well, but to be fair, that particular trend is like.
So
There we go.
that's pretty much equitable on the.
Cool.
There you go.
So
So, she is not tiny.
No, not at all.
She is ready to go wreck shop.
she is wrecking. Seriously, this girl's wrecking. Fantastic little sculpt. I got some ideas here. I really want to do a Tharn Blood Tracker Company of Iron Force because there's some of my favorite circle models are tied up in
I have one built in War Room.
in that theme. So I have like a little idea. I know Warcasters, Warlocks are not allowed in Company of Iron, but I might just use this model
Sure,
as
sub it
my-
in.
Company of Iron, you do what you want.
Just kind of sub it in for my leader model, whatever my leader model.
Well, yeah,
happens
because
to be.
there's no competitive format to Company of Iron, so therefore, using a different Hordes model for one of your Hordes figures, as long as your opponent knows what it is and what it represents, that's kind of all that matters.
Sure.
Sure. Yeah, I really like the female Tharns. Trying to decide right now what War Beast to put in there, and I'm leaning on a Gorax pretty hard right now. Just because I want to paint a Gorax.
So, for example, before I saw Iona, what I was going to go with for my Tharn Company of Iron was actually 26 points. I was a Bloodweaver Night Witch, unit of Bloodweavers, the Blood Trackers with the Nuala the Huntress.
Yeah, that's a good one. I could see Griffin being pretty cool with her too.
Griffin would be pretty cool.
When the Griffins.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Griffin is cool. For me, I'm leaning really hard toward that Gorax because that model is I think that model's just cool.
Yeah, it's a fun one.
He's just raging out with chains.
Yeah. Got to tie your Gorax to a rock.
Oh, that old one?
Yeah, I had two of those that I
The
painted up.
classic Gorax. He is tied to a rock. It's so awesome.
It just cracked me up. I know it was one of those sort of maligned models, but I always kind of liked it. You know, I liked that they were sort of homely.
So Patrick says, "Hey Doug, while we're on the topic of more people within the Iron Kingdoms becoming Warcasters, Warlocks, etc.,
Uh-oh.
any particular reason the Pygmy Trolls can't be shamans or gifted with magic?"
That's a tough question. Often there are things that did not have magic, and then the design team decides they want to make it into a caster anyway.
Well,
and then I am left scrambling to explain.
Well, and so to the best of my understanding,
I think
pygmy like so.
Well, I think in Unleashed we had it that they could not be gifted, but in my opinion, that isn't necessarily a hard limit.
Sure.
Depending on the other thing is, one of the things that we really like to do, which again kind of can make it hard to make an RPG that sets rules for the setting, but we love making rule breakers for our casters. Like it's almost a de facto thing.
But that's a thing, right? Is so warcasters are pardon the overuse of the term, but they're epic, right? They are not. They're paragons. They are
or they've gone through something weird, or like
right.
we love doing weird stuff with
They're drinking
casters.
serum.
Yeah, they are not by any means the normal.
No, you got casters that have juiced up to turn into a warcaster. We've got maybe you put a dragon thing in your chest.
Have I told you my idea for a pig warlock?
No, what's that? Or maybe you have, but bring it up again.
Can I talk about it?
Yeah, please.
But what if we make it? Then we'll spoil it.
But no, because the chances of making it.
Yeah, maybe.
I think is amazing.
I think it's possible.
All right, you hear me out. You ready, Doug?
Yeah, sure.
Because once I get you on board, I win.
No, you have to.
No, because
you have to get
Scorner
Jason.
Pants
You have
aren't
to
in
get
the
Jason.
books yet, and Jr. won him over. on that
But it
one
helps.
while
It
ago.
helps.
Good ideas win. Scorner pants are not good ideas.
Yeah, not all ideas are equal.
So you take a hooch hauler.
Okay.
And you get rid of the catapult on top.
Right.
And you put like a mystical plinth thing.
Okay.
Right. And then you have a pig up there. Right.
Right.
Skorg the Unquenchable.
Nice. That sounds pretty
So
good.
what it is like all pygmy trolls are actually magically gifted, but they can only tap the magic
with alcohol.
With alcohol.
Sure.
But no pig has been able to withstand the amount of alcohol it takes to actually reach the magic level.
I like it.
Except for Skorg the Unquenchable. So he's up there.
Well, or like they get close, but then they pass out.
They pass out.
Whereas he has the endurance necessary, the troll fortitude.
He's the only pig that can get drunk enough to tap his magical potential.
So let's get a little drunken master.
He's somehow related to Madrak or something. So he's got the ability to just keep going.
Or he could have been like one of like Borka's most legendary keg carriers. Who kind of went beyond.
He was drinking.
He made like a little leak, and he was
drinking the whole time.
He's drinking the whole thing. So Borka had to get rid of him, but he's like, "There's something special about you. You were the chosen one. Go and drink more.
Drink more.
Test your limits.
The Unquenchable.
I like it.
He drank so much he was able to unlock his magic potential. So now he rides a hooch hauler and he's just drinking and casting spells.
Well, pygmy trolls in general are kind of funny because like we've shown them change quite a bit and evolve quite a bit from when we first depicted them, and it's not a retcon or anything. It's just within the setting. Like when we first showed them in the Monsternomicon, they weren't wearing clothes. Like they were just out in the wilderness, and it was almost just like they just didn't need clothes. They didn't care for it. And then wars were happening. Their tribes started to get kind of like they had to rely on Trollkin to survive. They're hanging out with Trollkin. They're like, you know what? I wouldn't mind putting on some boots and some pants.
Just a touch of protection.
Yeah, put on some stuff.
I mean, he's wearing
pick up some weapons.
Why can't I?
So they're super adaptable. They've just kind of been, they've just been kind of relaxed. They're one of the most like mellow species. And so, once you get them fired up, get enough booze in them, who knows what could happen?
Who know? Well, I know because I just told you what.
Yeah, I think you need to make that model, and then they have to make rules for it. That's happened before.
Quick painting question. Ray Cheller says, my question is, I love mixing paint, and I just finished Harrison Gibbs and Garrity. Awesome characters. My problem is that my mixed paint is either too much or dries out too fast. So that sounds basically like just keeping an eye on the humidity of the area you're in, adding more water where necessary.
Or less water.
Or less water, yeah.
Like water dries up. Like paint, actually. It depends on what you're trying to do. Also, what technique you're painting with. If you're trying to just layer, maybe pull a little less water out in there. I mean, you can see my setup. I'm just using a well palette, and I mixed this paint up how long ago, and I'm still pulling paint out of it.
And some people live in an area where a wet palette is super useful.
Depends on what technique.
Yep.
There's a lot going on in that conversation. Also, rinse your brush after every few brush strokes. Reapply a little bit of water. Like you don't just dip your brush and paint forever. So dip, rinse, add. Like it's a back and forth. Like I've been painting for how long? 20 minutes now with this color. So I'm just building up a nice base coat here on this model. So I got one more thing.
I want Skorg the Unquenchable now.
Yeah.
I can't stop thinking about it.
It's not bad.
Telling you, Skorg the Unquenchable. Character, Pygmy, Warlock, Hoochholler, Battle Engine.
And
Maybe
you
I'll
could
just-
have a bunch of like whelps that came from his like drunken accidents. You know,
Because pigs
lying
can
around.
whelp, right?
Yeah, pigs are actually where all the whelps that you see with Trollkin come from,
Oh, really?
for the most part. Yeah, because Trollkin can't make the whelps themselves. But you know, pigs are sort of more like true trolls.
Well, except for Mulg. Oh, wait.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, real trolls can't. I'm saying Trollkin can't.
Trollkin can't,
Yeah.
yes. But pigs and
Yes,
full-blood
full-blood
trolls,
trolls. Yes.
can whelp.
So yeah, so it'd be kind of fun to have some. I think you could do some fun stuff with whelps on your hooch hauler.
That'd be the second Hoochholler I built. What is wrong with
They
me?
are monsters, I guess.
What is wrong with me?
There's so many pieces.
I'm a madman.
But
What if
It's
it's
so
scaled down a little bit, smaller?
It's
hooch
so
hauler?
much fun to assemble, though. Like, so, like, normally, like, I'm like, I want as many parts as are necessary,
Sure.
right? Like, however, the hooch hauler is just, it goes together really well.
I've never assembled one, but yeah, it looks like it does.
Like, so, Scar 3, many fewer parts,
Right.
right? But, like, the parts that are in there, super detailed.
Right.
So that one, just done. It didn't need more parts, but the hooch hauler, like, in order to get like the level of detail that's on there, it needed what it has. So
Sure.
while it's a much higher number than Scar, there's nothing superfluous about it.
Right.
I don't follow.
Don't follow?
I don't follow.
Oh, just talking about how the difference in like the number of parts is sometimes just necessary in order to get the model that you want.
Get the joins to work
Mhm,
properly when they're engineering it.
Yeah, I mean,
So like I did not have a harder time assembling the hooch hauler than I did say Scar, right? Even though the difference in the number of parts is pretty big.
sure,
It was not difficult just because it was more.
sure.
That's all. People are talking about Chuck Dogwood. We don't talk about Chuck
Why?
Dogwood. He doesn't exist. He's not real.
All right, so that's kind of the basis for my skin, and then I'll use some Battlefield Brown and Adrian Flesh because I want her to be kind of dark. We got 15 minutes. Do we want to continue this?
What would you do if you didn't?
This? Do you wanna talk about that?
I think that I like doing the little. I think your other option.
I
would
think
be cool
showing
to
that
see.
off is cool.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can actually get that to show up.
Let's see if we can do it with the camera.
Yeah.
So this, let me mix up. So this, I posted a picture the other day, and I don't know, Doug, did you see it?
I saw it from afar, but I didn't see the detail.
I posted a picture the other day, and everybody was just like, "How'd you do that?" And let's talk about how do you do it.
Right. It's not bad.
It's a book.
It is a book.
It was a little tiny.
That is Eilish Garrity's book.
Yeah.
So let's talk about freehand. Can you bring up the chat in case there's a good?
Yep. I just had to make sure we
freehand
were
question?
solid. And then while you're getting that set up, Circus says, "Seacat, have you started painting again?"
Yeah, I have a little bit. I'm kind of getting my area set up again, but I have started back in trying to figure out where I left off. I've grabbed some of my old primed Rulik models that I hadn't gotten to and have started to base coat them.
Right on.
All right. So what I'm doing is mixing up. I took some Thamar black and a little tiny dot of paint all over my damn hand. So we're bouncing all over today.
Yeah, I don't have a swatch for that.
This is new. this is new for us here.
So some Thamar black and
Scorn red and a little touch of gray coat gray. You can just do pure Thamar black, whatever. I like for this in particular, I want the Scorn red in there because I'm painting in my head an evil book that summons demons. So of course it is bound in human flesh and written in human blood.
like you do.
Like you do. So I want a little, I want that little bit of red in there. And then I put in a metric boatload of mixing medium. And I'm going to thin this down.
We are all up in on that book.
It might be a little too close, and you're maybe a little out of focus. That seems good.
Yep. Now
Yeah.
I cannot take it down here. So if you want it more centered, you'll have to lower the
Let me see what we can
arm.
do here. Let me see. This.
There you go.
I'm going to leave that off.
There you go.
It's not helping me, but it's helping them. So I've thinned down my paint. You can see on my hand. See how thin that is? Thin that down. I definitely recommend drawing out what you want somewhere else. Like on a piece of paper. I gotta move my hand. I gotta move a bunch of stuff to do this. Can you still hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
I had to mute you for a second so we didn't blow out people's eardrums.
So always think about what you want to paint, and usually sometimes draw it out on another piece of paper or a piece of plastic card. I like plastic card, and then I actually paint. Like I actually paint a page on a piece of plastic. So,
So you have a sense of scale.
do I have a piece of plastic card somewhere around here in the studio? Yes. It's like a piece of plastic card. I might draw a couple pages, and in practice, I almost always use reference. So I'll find a picture that I want to do. But let's just do some letters real quick. Let's just talk about painting on some letters. Do we have any really good questions?
Looking. Alex says you could always show us how you did the book, and then he immediately responded with the book. Let's see here. New Eilish. Yes, this is the one from the new. From the general release sculpt, which will be out a little later this fall. The original, of course, came out with No Quarter Prime #1, which completely sold out. Let's see here. Yes, he started painting. Roughly what size is that brush? You're still working with like what, a 2?
A 1.
A 1 on this one?
Or a 1. So I kind of sketch sort of. This is really difficult, guys, because I'm not in the best spot for doing this with the camera and stuff like that. It makes this very, very difficult.
And just do your best, because
So-
we can see that really pretty well.
Is it Iron Painter difficult?
Oh, I'm so ready for the Iron Painter. So the idea here is to have very thin paint and a very good point on my brush. And I like watercolor brushes for this because they have a big barrel, which is the belly of the brush. So it holds the paint very wet. And then the point's very sharp. I want to remove most of the paint.
So you have lots of control.
And I just want to very lightly think about my size and just
Start
barely touch.
sketching it in.
I just want to barely touch the book. Let's put a little triangle here because that's kind of a. And then never try to do it in one go. And then like maybe put some little things there, like little accents.
You guys can't see, but Doug and I are transfixed right now.
My hands are so shaky. I've never been able to do any
So
kind of free
that's the thing, Doug. Did you watch my ergonomics video?
I should. I have not. I bet my ergonomics are bad.
So I got my elbows planted if you can see, I'm going to move this just a little bit, guys. I'm gripping this mic stand.
Right.
I'm gripping that really good. So my hand is anchored really tightly, right? And then if you look how I'm painting, see that pinky? That pinky's anchored really good.
Yeah, I see this. That kind of steadies that hand.
Everything is being steadied. I've got a triangle between hand and elbows because that triangle is very good for support. And then I'm just going to take a deep breath. And then as I exhale, I'll paint something. What are we going to paint here? Let's make up another. Let's just make some little squiggle
Little
letter
serpentine, little rune.
And then for like little tiny letters, I just kind of made up my own like process of how letters look in my head from afar. I don't try to paint real letters. I never try to paint real letters.
It's just suggestive of it, like when you're at a distance.
Yeah, and I really like looking at if you look at like ancient Sanskrit or languages like that, you'll see, like you'll watch as I do this. So let's maybe, that's a lot of paint coming out of there. That's all right.
And if you mess up, it's just a stain that's on an old book.
Or it's just another mark, as long as it looks like systematic markings.
Yep, that's all it's got to look like. It's just got to look like a system of marks, right? So I might put like little dots, and then I'll do like a little line, and I'll put like another dot, and then I might do some sort of like something like that. Maybe something like that. And I just really just kind of make up some basically squiggles.
Yeah, it's
Adding in little dots creates that like ancient text feel to it. Like I said, like Arabic letters are really awesome looking, very artistic. Ancient Sanskrit, I might do some sort of like line that drops down, right?
Yeah, and some of those ancient alphabets, especially the ones used in stone, were fairly simple, but just with like a few kind of repeated, lines and curves.
Yeah, and that's all you gotta do, right? It's just like I'm barely touching this and just let that out and just kind of make up some interesting lines.
That's already looking good because you see the sort of the line that you're putting the figures across, and it just conveys.
And there's a loose consistency, right?
Yeah.
So it looks like it was done with intent instead of just some smudges on a page.
If Dallas isn't careful, he might summon something here in the process
Sweet.
of writing this page.
I need a paint demon.
A little paint demon
Little
comes
paint
out.
demon? That'd be awesome. You're like, what can I do for you? I'm like,
'Cause I'm
base coat everything for me.
Because I'm sure you've shed some blood, while doing this stuff too.
He's going to summon Skorg, the unquenchable, who will drink all of his paint.
That's fine. That's fine. What should we put here? We need some sort of like, maybe some sort of symbol.
Oh yeah, like something a little bigger on the bottom of the page,
Some kind of arcane diagram.
or a little circle of wording with a more complex shape in the middle.
Warding or circle of evil?
Well, you got to ward yourself when you're summoning the evil things, or else they just take your soul and run off.
Yeah,
So just
personal wording.
some fun different concentric circles.
Maybe we'll put some sort of like maybe a line.
I think you have to feed paint demons paint water.
Alex says, "Pop a Menafix in there."
No.
with like a circle and a no line through it. No Menot.
Or an inverted menafix.
I like the idea of the inverted minifix.
It's the hanged man.
It's all suggestive. There's no like.
What? Somebody just broke into the studio.
Oh crap. Doug Hamilton, ladies and
It's
gentlemen.
Doug Hamilton. He came straight from Egypt.
Get your paint on.
I almost did come straight from Egypt.
We just showed off Iona.
That's the only reason I'm here is so I can see her.
Well, now you look at this book.
Yeah, you gotta
I
look
don't
at
even know how to read.
That's okay. They're not real letters.
Oh, good. Looks like your handwriting, Doug.
Yeah, it does.
That is accurate.
I have the worst handwriting, which is why it's why I type so fast.
You make my handwriting look really good.
I make both of your handwriting look good because I literally write in swing script.
What are you making there?
It's a flock of seagulls.
It looks like some little birds.
I'm sneaking over to look at Iona.
She's right there on the table, buddy.
Can I reach in there?
Yeah, grab it. I'm just kind of making stuff up over here. I don't know exactly what that is, but does that look like some sort of arcane symbol?
I think so. Yeah. Don't listen.
Just
to
needs more
Needs more what?
concentric
lines?
circles.
I don't know.
Where at?
On the right side,
This side?
Mm-hmm.
Where do you want something?
Like throw like
inside the circle.
throw like an overlapping smaller circle in there.
Okay.
As we're making these demands on him with this little tiny
Art
little
for
tiny,
me.
tiny area.
Oh, there we go.
Make it look more
Yeah.
symbol.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
There
cool.
you
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, there's something going on there.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty cluttered, but whatever.
No, it's good.
I think it works.
Mm-hmm.
It needs something down here, maybe. Maybe
Just
numbers.
maybe some dripping blood.
You don't
Like
want to get
someone had to.
you don't get blood on your book.
No, someone had to finger paint it with blood.
Oh, sure.
So a whole bunch of people said, "Hi, Doug."
Paul, I said hi back.
He says hi back.
It's Doug and Doug.
So I'm just gonna move the mic so he can join Doug.
Doug and Doug reunited.
So now the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take more scorn red,
Oh yeah, get a little red in there.
and I'm going to take some more mixing medium because I want this very translucent once again. Create that translucency. Add some water. Add a little touch of that black.
They're wanting more spoilers out of you because they know you're easy like that.
I have approved nothing.
all I did was drop teasers. I didn't actually give them any real information.
Did you bring the coat?
I did not bring the coat because nobody said to. I didn't.
You should just know.
I should just know. I should always bring the coat.
So what are you doing with the red there?
So what I'm sorry, what?
Staining?
No. Well, yes, kind of. Give me a second. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of red on the pages. This is super thin, super translucent. I'll blend that out,
Ah, okay.
and it gives that little bit of red. You can also maybe accentuate some of the symbology,
Symbolism.
the symbols, and maybe put a little red in there to indicate maybe some nefarious printing activity.
Yeah.
Maybe a red on this one and this one.
Could also see it like it almost suggests like some of the runes are sort of glowing with their own light or something.
Yeah, and you can actually do like full glow runes, and I mean we could cover that another day probably. Like what would full glowing runes look like?
Man, that already looks really cool. I have never done anything like that.
I mean, this is a lot of. It's those 3 P's, man: patience, practice, perseverance, right? And I know this is pretty complex, a little more complex than some of the other stuff we do on this show, but I got a lot of questions about it, and but it might be a fun topic for us. And I'm going to take some pure Menoth white base. That's a little thin. Let's thicken that up a little bit. And then I'll take and I'll just paint like the edge of the page here and the top of that little top of this page.
So just a little highlighting for depth.
Yeah, just a little highlight.
A couple people are suggesting a ring where someone left their coffee mug.
You guys treat your books badly. I don't know what you guys are doing with your necromantic books, but you really shouldn't
It's a little
put coffee
highlight
mugs
there.
on there. Boom.
And that is pretty much how I approach something like that, like a little book. And that's awesome thing. Eilish has this really cool book.
That's great.
So people are going to get the opportunity to play with that and have some fun painting. If you're going to do glowing runes, I recommend bigger runes. So let's do. I'm not going to do. Maybe, do we have time
the
to
right
do a full
page?
one?
We
don't really.
we have about 5 minutes.
So
Plenty time.
let's make up a letter. Let's just make something up here. So you'd paint like white, like some. This is just pure Marwhite. This is actually the Marwhite I was using on Sorscha.
It's still pretty thin, though, it looks like, so that you can have some control.
Well, it's really thin because of the mixing medium. Like I said, I was using it for Sorscha. And then you could do something like Heartfire or Necrotite Green.
Ooh,
Something
I
with
wanna
like
see-
a
I want to see
real
the green.
vibrant color.
Yeah, you want a real vibrant poppy color. So let's find some Necrotite Green. I'm going to screw this one up. That's what's going to happen on this one. Because I haven't done this style in a long time. So once again, I'm anchoring myself. I'm taking my breath. I'm exhaling as I paint. And I'm just reiterating my white line here to make sure it stands out nice and poppy. Does that symbol need something at the top there, Doug?
I like what you have. I like the shapes. I guess you could do one crossbar on that top part.
Like
if
a
you
little
wanted.
crossbar going
Yeah.
the opposite way, I think? No?
I would say like just going straight across. Yeah. Just a little bar. Yeah. Just give it a little. It's funny because that almost looks like some of the infernal runes that we showed in the old Monsternomicon. So I think you're channeling something here.
It's inside me. It's a weird looking number 5.
Well, it's because he used Eilish to play the Infernalist from Arcanists.
Yeah, that's right.
On
Yeah,
Tuesday.
and he murdered some people.
Oh, yes, he did.
Man, I straight blue.
Man, that's
suckered
like that's like one of the first weekly rumbles you've won.
That was like one of the first games I've ever won.
So if you guys missed it, go check out Tuesday's game. It was they were playing Arcanists 4-way game from No Quarter Prime number 5.
It was pretty entertaining.
It was delightful.
My dark deals were,
On fire.
yeah. So I'm going to take some Necrotite Green, not Arcane Blue, Necrotite Green, mixing medium. Bye, Doug. Why are you leaving, Doug? You got nothing to do.
He doesn't want to waste his nothing to do time here.
I'm off today. It was a travel day. I'm just socializing. And I wanted to see Iona.
You got to see
And
Iona.
just crashing my studio.
Are you not going to hang around for a little bit?
Well, we're almost done.
And
It's lunchtime.
I didn't mean like hang around.
Doug is very emphatically nodding his head.
Oh, cool.
So I'm going to paint this over top. So like a glaze.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'll kind of blend that away to get kind of that glow look.
Mm-hmm.
Just accentuating.
Get your paint on.
Thought you were leaving.
Kind of blend that out. Get that kind of softness around it. Like maybe a little bit of glow is coming off the page. A little reflection over here on this. Something like that. There's a lot of process, sorry. There's a lot of steps here.
Oh, cool.
Okay. Well, and then for like stuff like blood stains or other stains on the pages where you don't wash out like the runes that you put on it. So Alec was asking about that. would you just do really thin paints, or how would you achieve like some staining without destroying your work on the letters on the left side?
I do that all before the letters usually.
Try to make it
Gotcha.
more of a background element.
Yeah, because I want my letters to stand out. Now, that being said, you can thin your paints and do glazes over top. It does push them down in there. It's kind of like the philosophy for painting tattoos. You paint the tattoo on, and then you add a real thin glazy highlight of your flesh's highlight color over top of it, and it pushes that
Makes it subdermal.
skin or that tattoo ink down into the skin a little bit.
Yeah.
So this is mid-off white highlight. I'm gonna pick out some areas that I feel would be like extra hot,
Extra glowy.
and just kind of tap those in there a little bit.
That's cool.
Super neat.
And then let's put some yellow ink. I know we're running out of time, gentlemen. Sorry. We did a lot of stuff today.
Yeah, that's
We
cool.
did a lot, yeah.
Jam packed.
Another action-packed episode of Get Your Paint On. Next Thursday on Get Your Paint On.
Repeat as we prepare for lock and load.
So true.
So, now that we mentioned that, just a reminder for folks, there will be no live streaming next week on the regularly scheduled days. All the live streaming will begin at 9 a.m. Friday morning, live from Lock and Load, starting with the keynote. We will have some best hits, if you will, playing at the normal times at 10 o'clock. So if you just need a little something to get you through your lunch break at work or what have you, that'll be there. The chat will be open so folks can talk to each other. But
Choice
all of
rerun.
us, all of us will be packing things up and getting it over to the Hilton.
That's right.
So there you go. I took some yellow ink, added a little bit of the necrotite green.
I like it.
Glazed it just over that center so I didn't get it out too much on the necrotite green that was blended away from it. I might blend a little bit more necrotite green purely away from it.
Tie it all together.
But all in all, that's pretty much the process of how I would or how I do.
Oh, there
It
we
looks
go.
great, even zoomed in. And again, like you said, most people are going to be viewing it from, several feet away.
Yeah, and like this is a bottle cap for reference.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Does anybody have a coin? Does anybody have a coin on? Got a penny?
I do not.
Penny for my paint thoughts?
No pennies.
No pennies. Do you have a key? What do you got?
I got a key.
So here, I zoomed way out if you want to move the camera arm a little bit.
All right, ladies. This is Doug's house key, so get ready to take a picture so you can get it copied.
You want to move the camera arm just a little bit? There we go.
I'll just move my whole hand over.
Yeah,
So,
that's crazy.
key for reference.
That's pretty amazing for not a great amount of time that you spent doing it.
Right? How long did that take me? 10, 15 minutes?
Yeah.
Right? It's like, it's not a lot of work. It's just it's just being patient.
Being careful,
And honestly, the ergonomics, right? The ergonomics of
bracing
it
yourself right.
is what really helps with that process is taking that deep breath. Let's get it like that.
Yeah.
As we close the show, we can just leave it like that. Taking that deep breath, exhaling as you paint, like when your brush hits, using very thin paint, just the tip of the brush. The brush and the paint will do the work. Let them work. Let them do the thing.
I think there's a paint demon manifesting in the corner over there.
Look, it looks like it, doesn't it? Do we have any questions that we can answer real quick before we sign off?
Doors open at 8 on Friday. I believe that's correct. Thanks for the videos. Thank you, Patrick. Thanks for hanging out.
Will there be a full schedule up for streaming?
Yes, that was supposed to go up yesterday, but Internet Goblins ate it, so I hope to have that up very shortly.
My paint demon got the internets.
Right.
Alec, you're very welcome. Alec has been bothering me about how I did the book. And when I say bothering, It's a jovial.
He has
jest.
been requesting
Been
information.
requesting information about.
No,
Hey,
that was-
Dallas, tell me about that book. So I wanted to make sure. Nate, I'm excited to see you next week. Let's hang out and talk about miniatures. Jeremiah, I don't know. Dallas, have you had any issues with that blue tack pulling paint from finished portions of your models, or is it not sticking? I've not had that problem, but I don't mind throwing a little paint on the bottom, whatever. Little paint comes off. I also don't blue tack anything that's done. It's just primer under there. So
And Rachel was asking again what size brush. That was a 1.
I was a 1. I was a size 1. Everybody says thank you, and I say thank you back. And
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
What do we got? Lock and load next week.
Lock and load.
Lock and load.
Somebody was asking if Eilish has been hanging out with Infernalists. I would say maybe not quite yet. He'd like to find out some information. He's just an investigator.
He's a he's a polyarcanist.
He's
So, like a
interested in
polymath,
knowledge.
right? Like he wants to know lots about everything.
He goes where the knowledge is, and
Yeah, wherever there's
sometimes
knowledge.
the knowledge is held by strange beings.
You never know where you'll find knowledge.
Yeah. Sometimes you need to write some weird runes on a page to get the right knowledge.
Thanks
In
for
human
joining.
blood.
Thanks for joining us, everyone.
See
We
you
will
next
see you next
time.
time, and we will see a bunch of you at Lock and Load. Excited.
Lock and load.
Lock
Time
and load.
to paint. 2018 at the